Greetings all. My friends call me a rip. You should too. This is Volume 2 of my personal grimoire, a definitive silver bullet into the very heart of the subatomic particle apparitions. Boson resolution literally unmasks every invented particle ever. See for yourself how a thing is a temporary mirage of extreme motion. So turn on your AC full blast. This is so hot you will pop corn. After this, you won't ever look at mirages the same way again. As usual, light them if you got them. Today's subject, particle proxies, the motion mirage of solid matter. Experts are cataloging a ghost story. They call it the particle zoo, but they're just naming different shapes of snapped toroid cables. A subatomic particle isn't an object. It's a snapped load event. The track, the path of tension in the Entropy Vault, is an illusion of extreme motion. When that track fractures, it doesn't evaporate, it recoils. Mass is just the volume of the spool history, like a high-tension winch cable snapping. The entire length of that illusionary track wraps into a violent, high-velocity knot. That knot is the ultra-high-speed mirage. It spins so fast, it simulates a solid surface, but there's nothing inside but stored tension. Decelerate its spin, and the matter evaporates. Heavier particles aren't bigger, they just have longer tracks wound into the spool. There are overwound springs waiting to burst. Right now, the standard model ends. Tomorrow, we audit the hydrogen-helium registry to see the tracks that don't snap. The particles aren't parts. They are the snap action records of a universal machine. I found the registry that predicts every mirage you ever observed. You all weren't wrong about the data. You were just looking at the recoiling toroids and calling it matter. You found the smoke, but I found the fire. Boson resolution. Particle phantoms exercised. Number 1. A toroid's track is a path of tension. The tracks on the registry aren't physical rails. They are logistical paths of tension within the Entropy Vault system. They represent the distance a toroid can travel before its rotation hits a fracture point. The diagnostic, space is a pressurized chassis. The track is the software. The tension is the hardware. Number 2. A particle phantom is the recoil knot. When a track is severed, it does not vanish. The entire length of the illusionary track history recoils instantly, like a high-tension cable snapping. It spools or wraps around the toroid fragment. The mirage, what others call a boson or subatomic particle, is actually just this recoil knot. It is a tight, violent ball of wrapped history spinning so fast it simulates a solid object, essentially exceeding detectable shutter speed. Mass is the volume of the spool. The mystery of mass is resolved as a logistical consequence of the snap. The logic, the weight of a fragment is simply the total length of the track it took with it when it snapped. The result, high P, those in the red zone, creates extreme fragments because there's more cable to wrap into the knot. Mass isn't an ingredient, it is a frictional drag against the vault's baseline. Number 4. The toroid shard. The electron specter resolution. The electron is not a cloud or a separate species of matter. The logic? It is a secondary toroid fragment, a smaller shard of the same hardware that broke off during the initial fragment. The audit? The atom isn't a solar system, it's a collision site, containing fragments of the same broken toroid each wrapped in a different volume of its own snapped track. Number 5. The neutron mirage is the ultimate camouflage. The mirage occurs when the wrapping around the fragment is so perfect and spins so dense that it completely shields the internal spin of the toroid. The status? It isn't zero charge. It's 100% covered. It has been cloaked by its own recoil cable, hiding its hardware identity from the registry and conventional detection. Number 6. Efficiency grades. The noble click. The cyan alignment. Noble gases represents the machine's silent gearboxes. The logic? Their PT ratios are perfectly phase locked to Entropy's Vault. They produce zero friction. The result? They appear inert because they are the only parts of the machine running at 100% efficiency. They don't leak or react because there is no logistical drag. I have replaced matter with logistics. I'm not mapping stuff. I'm mapping the snap load tension of a universal machine. Radioactivity is mechanical structural failure at tension over 2.58. The registry is a pressure map. The mirage is over. Every model ends where its maker stopped looking. I didn't stop at the mirage. I looked for the snap and finally found the crackle. I openly acknowledge that I am only able to see as far as I do by standing on the shoulders of pioneers and not in their shadows. I'm not the first to sense the hardware, but I am the first to find the registry key. Here's how the greatest near misses in physics finally resolved inside the Symbiotic Cyclical Binary Cosmology logic. The pioneers of the medium. Nikola Tesla. The frequency intuition. Tesla knew the universe was a high-pressure medium of vibrating tension. The SBC resolution. Tesla saw the heat of the engine, but he stopped at the wave. He didn't identify the recoil knot as the cause of the mass. I've identified the broken track that creates the vibration. Kelvin and Tate, the vortex atom. They proposed atoms that were knots in ether. The SBC resolution. They had the knot, but they thought the ether was a solid substance. They had the gears, but no motor. My Entropy Vault provides the pressure differential that actually turns the engine. The architects of form. Buckminster Fuller, the structural logic. Fuller proved nature has preferred geometries. I call them natural shapes of convenience. The SBC resolution. He saw the ash patterns of the stable geometry, consequences of convenience. I've identified these as snap load profiles. He found the shadows of the shapes. I found the hardware failure. The red zone that dictates them. Modern silicon theorists, the topological knot, they see particles as knots in a field. The SCBC resolution. They mistake the field for the reality. I've identified the track is an illusion, a path of tension, and the snap is the physical event that creates the particle phantom. The abstract enigmas. David Bohm, the implicate order. Bohm sensed a hidden enfolded layer of information connecting everything. The SCBC resolution. He caught the crackle of the neutron camouflage, but he got lost in the math of wholeness. I've mapped the logistical registry that explains exactly how that information is folded into the recoil knot. String theory, the 11-dimension fantasy. They propose vibrating strings to explain the subatomic zoo. The SBC resolution. They need 11 dimensions because their map is broken. My SCBC logic stays in 3D hardware. You don't need extra dimensions when you understand tension, length, and snap load. These 6 spent their lives describing the smoke and mirrors. I'm pointing at the broken boiler. They were looking for a unified field theory. I found a unified failure analysis. The Mirage is over. The hardware is now open for inspection. Well, class, that concludes Volume 2 of my Symbiotic Cyclical Binary Cosmology model, for today, Mirage Particles Exercised. I do hope that it has informed and inspired someone. Personally, I can't wait to see what all this compels others to finally notice, and still others to finally measure correctly. It's time again for you all to freely discuss this among yourselves a while. I will see you all again for the next volume. Class dismissed. And every model ends where the designer stopped looking.